You ever have that feeling? You know, the one where you're just killing it at work. You're hitting all your goals, you're the go-to person, but your career just feels stuck, like you're running in place. Well, if your paycheck hasn't gotten the memo about how awesome you are definitely not alone. And we're going to unpack exactly what's going on. So, let me introduce you to someone we'll call James. James is a senior project manager, been at his company for 6 years, and his performance reviews? Always strong. Whenever a big project is about to go completely off the rails, guess who they call? Yep, James. He is, by every definition, the perfect employee. Loyal, valuable, and super competent. So he goes into his annual review, feeling pretty good about the year. And then the number comes back. A 3% raise. I mean, it's fine, right? It's pretty standard. It basically covers inflation. So he does what most of us do. He nods, says thank you, and goes back to his desk. But on the walk back, he just can't shake this feeling that something is off. Later that night, James starts digging into the numbers and realizes, whoa, based on the current market for his role, he's actually being underpaid by nearly 20%. So what is happening here? How can a top performer like James be hitting a financial ceiling he didn't even know was there? Well, that's the big question we're going to answer right now. See, this isn't really a James problem. It's a system problem. Think about it. In your first couple of years at a job, your raises probably felt pretty good, right? They tracked your growth. But for a lot of us, after 3 or 4 years, that sense of momentum just disappears. It shifts into what you could call maintenance mode. Your raises just flatline at that standard 3%, and it doesn't seem to matter how hard you work. To really get why this happens, we have to pull back the curtain on something most people never see: the hidden architecture of how companies decide to pay you. Trust me, there are these invisible rules governing your salary, and once you see how they work, you will never be able to unsee them. Okay, so the core concept here is something called compensation banding. Just imagine that every single job title in your company, from entry level to CEO, is stuck inside a box, and that box has a floor, a midpoint, and a ceiling. Your salary, it's just one point somewhere along that line. So over the years, as you do a great job, you get raises, and you start moving up through that band. You get closer and closer and closer to that ceiling until, bam, you hit it. And at that point, the system literally has nowhere else for you to go, at least not within your current role's pay structure. Now, once you smack into the top of that bracket, HR has a very cold technical term for you. You are now comp ratio maxed. It's just a fancy way of saying the system has decided you are now fully paid for your role. And from this moment on, your raises have almost nothing to do with your performance and everything to do with the mathematical limits of the band you're in. And being comp ratio maxed is exactly where that feeling of being stuck starts to have a very real, very measurable cost. This, my friends, is the hidden price you often pay for loyalty. Economists actually have a name for this. They call it the loyalty penalty. It's that growing gap between your salary, which is trapped inside those slow-moving internal pay bands, and the salary of a brand new person they hired to do a similar job, a person who's paid based on today's much higher market rates. And that's the absolute crux of it. The system is valuing new talent at today's market price, but it's valuing its existing loyal talent based on an old, outdated price. You're literally being judged by two completely different rule books. It's wild. And the long-term damage this can do is honestly staggering. Over about a decade, that loyalty penalty can create a 20 to 50% gap in your total earnings compared to someone who switches companies every few years. I mean, think about that. That is a life-changing amount of money left on the table. So why on earth does this system even exist? Well, it all boils down to one simple, powerful concept: information asymmetry. Your employer has all the cards. They know the pay bands, they know the ceiling, they know what it would cost to replace you. And you, well, you usually just know what you made last year. That information gap is their biggest advantage in any negotiation. But, and this is a big but, you can change that. This is where we stop talking about the problem and start talking about the solution. So let's get back to James and look at the exact playbook he used to take back control and actually get paid what he was worth. What he did was simple. He dissolved that information asymmetry. First, he went out and gathered his own market data from sites like Glassdoor, Levels.fyi, and by talking to recruiters. Second, he documented his value, not with feelings, but with specific, quantified results. And third, and this is the most important part, he used all that ammo to completely reframe the conversation with his manager. And this right here is the key that unlocks everything. He didn't walk in there and give an ultimatum. He walked in with data. He shifted the entire conversation away from, well, this is what the company's internal band allows, and made it about, this is what the external market actually requires. It's no longer about what they want to pay you, it's about what the market demands. So let's not forget where this whole thing started, right? A standard, uninspired, frankly lazy 3% raise. That was the company's opening bid, based on what their system calculated he would probably accept without putting up a fight. And after he presented his case, all grounded in hard data, James walked out of that office with a 14% pay adjustment. That is the power of closing the information gap. He didn't just ask for more money. He proved, with evidence, that the market required it. So what's the big lesson here? What do we take away from all this? It's really about a mindset shift. It's about going from being a passive person who just accepts a paycheck to being an active manager of your own career value. It's about taking this new awareness and turning it into real action. So if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Your annual raise is not an assessment of your worth. It's a test of your awareness. It's the company's first offer, and it's based on what they think you'll accept without questioning the system. So now you have to look at your own situation. Are you in momentum mode, where your pay is actually keeping up with your growth and your real market value? Or are you just being maintained, held in place by an invisible ceiling you haven't decided to challenge yet? And that really leaves us with the final question, and it's for you. Now that you can see the hidden system, now that you know the rules of the game, what are you going to do about it? Are you content to be maintained, or are you ready to go gather your data, make your case, and move that ceiling yourself?